This is great.
Hello, 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 everyone. We are getting ready to go live on the Heart of Innovation. I'm going to turn it over to Chris D, our producer on KDOW. So listen in as we get ready to start the show.
On our mobile app, tune in, iHeart, and the Odyssey app. We go where you go. AM 1220 KDOW.
Sponsored by The Way to My Heart Incorporated.
Welcome to the Heart of Innovation, 60 minutes that could save life and limb with new breakthrough ideas and innovation changing the healthcare landscape. Brought to you by Patient Advocacy Group, the Global PAD Association at padhealth.org, in partnership with Reflow Medical, the pulse of medical ingenuity. Here are your hosts for the Heart of Innovation, Emmy Award-winning journalist and founder of the Global PAD Association, Kim McNicholas, and interventional cardiologist and founder of Save My Piggies Health and Wellness, Dr. John Phillips.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the show. Well, 2 years ago, I was at a membership-only club I belong to in San Francisco called The Modernist. It's basically like walking into Cheers where everyone says, Norm! Everyone just knows your name. It was built upon friendships at its foundation, with friends wanting a place where they can just always go to hang out together and build additional friendships. One of the founding members was Albert Chen, whom I've been blessed to know for a few years now. And one night while I was there hanging out with a couple of friends, he came up to say, hey, I noticed you're struggling with the use of your right hand there. Well, I've been injured and suffering with an injury there for a few years without any sort of relief. And Albert asked, well, can I take your hand and share some healing energy? And he spent more than 30 minutes with me. And I just could not believe, I was actually frankly shocked with the relief that I felt from the touch of his hands and his energy. So today, Albert is taking his powerful, energetic approach to healing and sharing it not just with me, his friends, and our community, but now the entire world. And I am excited that he is here to share it with all of you, as well as others like Dr. John Phillips.
Hey, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. How's everybody today? Kim, this is an interesting topic. Very, very, very. Yeah, no. And I have to ask you though, like, when did you know, and we'll obviously get Albert on here pretty soon, but did you know him when he came up to you and said, hey, can I give you some healing energy? Okay. But even
he wasn't a stranger. I've known Albert for a while. He's incredible, incredible, entrepreneur, and he's such a visionary.
Were you skeptical though? Like you had to have been skeptical. No?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what he was doing, but I've always been an energy-centric person. And the way I think about it is that when you have a heart attack, what do? They shock you. There's electricity, there's energy that they're pumping into your body, and it revives you. And so I look at it like that. Well, if your body is energy and electricity can actually save your life, then there must be other opportunities where electricity or energy could be used in healing. And I was open to it. So I think that that's part of it. I think that you do have to be open to that type of healing.
I think in general, number one, there's the folks that do alternative medicine, which I think there's certainly benefits of that. Because I don't like the idea of saying, hey, here's the pill, take it for the rest of your life. Let's change, the outcome by me maybe being more proactive in things and looking at alternative means of getting yourself healthy, whether it's psychologically or physically. So this is exciting. I watched a couple of videos, and so I'm waiting to hear from Albert, and I'm curious like how this works. So I will say we could have used some good healing energy yesterday night, but that fortunately didn't happen. But nonetheless, I mean, I hope that we can learn and share what Albert does with our community, and maybe give some positive vibes in a world where there's a lot of negative vibes, frankly.
Oh no, did you have a bad case?
Well, I did. It was this was kind of a spur of the moment thing, and I'm on call for both coronary work, so heart attacks, but also vascular stuff. And our vascular surgeon, who's a great guy, called me and said, "Hey, we've got a motor vehicle accident. So we've got a pedestrian who was hit by a truck, coming in with a tear in his aorta. And what happens is it's like the injury that killed Princess Di. You get these deceleration injuries, and there's a part of the aorta that's kind of attached to the body, and it can rip. And this ripped, and so this young person was not doing well and very, very sick. And we thought we could save him, but we couldn't. And it was just one of those. It's been a while since I've had, one of these cases where you kind of just sit there and stare, because there were three anesthesiologists. There were myself, a trauma surgeon, a vascular surgeon. We had to put a drain in his heart to kind of drain the blood, and it was like controlled chaos. But after everything ended and we said there wasn't anything we could do and we declared the person deceased, I just kind of sat there, and it took me a little bit to kind of get my arms around what had just happened. And when you see someone that young and their life extinguished for, a senseless reason, and just a freak accident, it causes you to pause, or it caused me to pause. And it took me a little bit to kind of get over that. And it's still something I'm still thinking about, obviously. And just, it's interesting to share. Not interesting is not the right word, but sharing it is sometimes cathartic. So thanks for letting me have that verbal incontinence, frankly.
No, and I actually want to bring in Albert, because as you were telling the story and you were closing here, you started leaning in, and I'm curious what's going through your mind, Albert.
Uh, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really amazing. You guys really do amazing work, and kind of hearing kind of like just the last like 10 minutes of your conversations. It's, really incredible kind of like what you guys do and what you guys sacrifice and what you guys have to go through to kind of do what you do. Um, uh, you know, um, for me, like I think you guys work on very acute things. I kind of work on things that are chronic. And so, well, I'm sure you guys work with a range of different things. But, the funny thing is that I am probably the biggest skeptic of this entire world of things that I'm kind of like involved with. I don't believe in almost anything until I can feel it, until I can kind of like, feel the results. So, uh, when I first kind of like got into this, I really had really zero belief in this stuff, and kind of in traveling kind of like the world, meeting other people that kind of do the things that I do, I still like for the most part find that there's very, very few people that can do something that I think is truly remarkable. And so I think that this field kind of gets like an interesting reputation because it's got like mixed results. So we're definitely trying to kind of like address some of that stuff. But yeah, maybe I can start by just kind of telling you how I got into this.
Sure.
Um,
Would love that.
yeah, I think my background, I'm like a tech entrepreneur, tech founder. I founded a couple companies, mostly in complex like network systems, in like routing software, in optical routing networks and wireless network systems and storage networks, and in ad networks. So I kind of am a pretty technical guy, and I'm not a very woo-woo kind of person, which is kind of not what you'd expect, kind of with the stuff that I kind of do. About close to like 28 or 29 years ago, I had an accident. I basically was at the gym and I was doing deadlifts, and I herniated a disc in my lower back, and that resulted in this really bad sciatica. So I had this sciatica for about 4 years, and I tried everything conventional to try to fix it, but it was pretty debilitating. I couldn't really drive. I couldn't sit for very long. The pain that was kind of in my lower back and down my leg was just really, really, really bad.
Well,
And
coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to continue to hear Albert Chen's story and find out the catalyst for change in his life and bring him into this world of healing. That's next. We're here on the Heart of Innovation on KDLW. Don't go away.
Leg health can indicate risk for heart attack, stroke, and amputation. If you have leg pain or leg cramps while walking, get checked for peripheral
Awesome.
artery
Okay.
disease or
It looks like we're clear.
We clear?
Yep. Wow. What a rough. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough one. I haven't had one of those in a while. And it grounds you on a number of levels, but it reminds you how fragile life is. But yeah.
So do you want to start?
Sure.
I can imagine, because I mean, I've been on, scenes of things, and, been in procedures where shit happens. But you just brought me back to PTSD with my mom and seeing that life, like them fighting for her life right before my eyes, and like that whole thing. And you're there in the thick of it as one of those people, knowing that the family is like right there, and you're trying to do everything in your power like they were with my mom in front of me. And that's a lot.
Well,
Great.
you don't like to lose. And we lost. And that's because then you not that you kind of minimize what happened, but we take away when these things happen, we take away
Got 30 seconds.
like what could you have done differently? And so,
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to debrief ourselves.
Do you want to start with a moment of inspiration?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Do you, Christy, can you come out of it with a stinger?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
That's 800-458-8877.
Doing great, Albert.
800-458-8877.
And then we'll get into the rest of
1220
your
KDOW.
story.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Dr. John Phillips, spectacular vascular moment of inspiration.
All right. Well, again, didn't mean to be a huge downer with that intro, but I think it's important to kind of like, at least for me, to sometimes get that stuff off the chest, and it's cathartic. But at any rate, what I was trying to do for an inspirational quote was look for somebody who practices energy healing, or who does maybe alternative medicine. And so I looked up and I saw Deepak Chopra, who's a prominent figure in alternative medicine, and I think he has Eastern philosophy, integrates it with Western medicine. And so he's got an interesting quote that I'd love to hear, Kim, your take on it, but obviously Albert's. But he's quoted as saying, "In the process of letting go, you will lose many things from the past, but you will find yourself." So I guess, I don't know. That's a lot to digest. Kim, what do you think?
Well, it's a lot even in the moment where you were just sharing this story that you're still trying to process, and everyone lets go at a different time and a different place, right? Some people need more time to process. And obviously, like, for example, with your situation, you do need more time to process. And I think it's nice for patients to hear how a situation like this impacts you as a physician, and the fact that you take every single patient to heart. And this patient, you tried everything in your power, and it's still affecting you as you wish that you could do more, and what could you have done differently. And in many cases like this one, there was nothing that you could do, but the fact that you're thinking about it. Now you have to work through this, because if you don't let go of this situation, how are you going to move forward to help other people? And so the way in which an amazing doctor such as yourself that continues to save those lives and those limbs is, you take a lesson, you learn from it, you move on and apply it going forward. And that's how you let go.
Well said. Yeah, that's well said.
And so I'm wondering, with Albert as well, your thoughts on it, and how that quote actually applies to what you're doing in the process of using energy healing. Just for those who may be joining in right now, Albert and his team are pioneering the reverse engineering of bioelectric energy healing techniques to develop scalable therapeutics, including potentially, and this is really exciting, regenerating the gut lining to address issues caused by stress and other factors. And so we're going to get into all that in just a few moments. But Albert, I would expect that there is probably a lot pent up in people who have chronic illnesses. And as part of this energy work that you're doing, you're helping them to let go of this negative energy that could be making them sick.
Yeah, I think people have different kind of like perspectives on what they think this is. And and I definitely think that there's like this element of kind of like of letting go of your beliefs of kind of like what you think might work or might not work. But the it's actually kind of funny. I didn't believe in this stuff at all, and so there was kind of like this big leap for me to kind of like I had to kind of let go of my previous kind of like beliefs when I kind of went into to do this experience. For when someone kind of like helped me with my back, and the outcome of that was actually pretty remarkable. The things that we do and the things that our kind of treatment, it doesn't require anyone to kind of believe or not believe, kind of like in the energy healing, whether it's going to work or not. It works regardless of whether you believe it or not, and it isn't kind of based on anything like that. It's more of like a physical kind of like a transfer of something going from my body into someone else's body that's affecting their body and that's able to kind of repair something in their body. Um, to kind of like from my own experience, kind of what happened was I ended up getting introduced to this guy in China who uh the description of it was that this guy can move things around your body without touching you. And I thought that was just, unbelievable, not something I believed in. But the experience I had was kind of nuts. I was able to get this meeting with this guy, and he kind of asked me a few questions, and then he put his hand about maybe 6 inches behind my lower back, and I could within maybe 10 seconds feel this like bioelectrical pulse, kind of like go down my back, like around my hip, and then down my leg. And then about 20 minutes later, he said, stand up and let me know how it feels. And I stood up and my pain went from like about like an 8 to like a 0. And I'd kind of been in that pain threshold for like 4 years. It was a pretty constant kind of like thing. So it was just kind of like a shocking thing to me. And I think what I had to let go of was like all of my beliefs that I had before. I had to kind of like acknowledge that there was something that I didn't believe in that actually works. And I ended up spending the next 20 years trying to figure out how he did that. And then trying to reverse engineer kind of how he did that. And I trained with him. I researched other kind of like healers. I met with a lot of people that kind of like are in the space. And it took me 17 years to kind of like really reverse engineer and get good at what he did to me. And then now I kind of teach other people and I kind of we do these what we call bioelectric therapeutic transfers, which are kind of like these healings, energy healings to people for various different conditions.
It's interesting that you say that because I was listening to Mel Gibson on Joe Rogan, and he mentioned something very similar to where he was interacting with a gentleman from the Eastern, Asian region, and did something very similar to him, lifted him off the ground. Like he tells us, like this happened. This person lifted him off the ground somehow, and then he was training other people. So that's a second time in 6 months that I've heard something like that.
Yeah, I think that there definitely are people that can do things that are kind of like very unconventional that you wouldn't believe are possible. I think there's not very many of them, but I think that it is kind of like there are people out there. I've kind of traveled the world looking for these people in a way, and I found very few, but it's pretty incredible when you do find someone that can do something that is pretty remarkable.
Was there
So
an aha moment when you realized that you might be one of these people, that you might have the same impact that the first gentleman had on you?
I think that my initial thing was I want to learn this because I've searched the world trying to find a solution for my own issue, and this is the only thing that's ever worked. And so I need to be able to, and this guy kind of like went away, went back to China, and I couldn't find him for at least another year, right? And so in that time frame, I went around looking for someone else in case something were to happen again. And I have other little things that I kind of wanted to fix, and no one could fix any of those other little things either. And so for me, it was more of this is important, and this is unfindable. I need to be able to be able to access this if I need it, right? And so that's kind of why I got into it. And the interesting thing about this is that it's not like there are people born with this ability. It's kind of very trainable. And I would say that 80% of people out there are kind of like trainable to kind of like learn this thing that I can do. And it's really about kind of um, like just being kind of like relaxed enough to kind of feel this like energy, and then be able to kind of like grow it through this like physical training that we do. The thing I do, by the way, doesn't use your mind at all. It's purely kind of like physical. Like you hold the squat every day for about an hour, and you just relax. You can watch TV, you can kind of like do anything like but kind of like focus on what you're doing. And this kind of like sensation just gets stronger and stronger in your hand. And that's kind of like the energy that I use to kind of heal with. But as you
Coming
train,
up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to hear more about how he's training individuals on how to become a bioelectric energy specialist, such as himself, through starting with a squat for 1 hour while you're watching TV. So don't go away. Stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW.
3 years ago, my symptoms started with leg pain and leg cramps while walking.
Yeah, it'd be great to go into that.
Most people can't squat for 30 seconds.
I know. I was gonna say.
it is really not easy. This whole thing comes from a martial arts background. It's not kind of like it doesn't, it's like the healing modality is a secondary effect of like the strength kind of and power created through this martial arts practice. And so my training was partially martial arts and partially kind of like this healing modality. But yeah, it's all physical. It doesn't use your mind at all. There's no intention. There's no kind of like, it's not about, I hate to say it, it's not like about love or anything like that. It's I basically have to tense my muscles in a certain way that allows this energy to leave my hand, and that's literally kind of like how it works.
And is it kind of like Tai Chi? Is there a little bit of that in this theory?
There's all these different modalities in Asia and around the world that kind of like try to kind of get the same outcome, including meditation, including, like Tai Chi. Everything has like a different output of like power level, and that's what it comes down to.
Do you have people that, again, you were a skeptic, I think when we come back, this is what I'm going to lead with, but just to prep, it's like you're an analytical guy, you deal with technical things that have substance, right? And there's math equations, like this is real. And then you tell somebody you do something with your hand, and I would imagine people are like, Albert, you are on crack.
Absolutely.
And so that's a dichotomy there. Like, how do you kind of reconcile that?
I think the thing is like, how do you turn what I do into data?
Yeah.
That's like, number one.
That's where you're going. That's where you're going, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Because like, right now I have a whole bunch of stories, and I'm trying to convert that first into data. And then after that, I'm trying to turn that into clinical data. And then I'm turning that into science.
Do you have people that are like, you tell them that you can do this and they say, I don't believe you, whatever. And then you do something, I don't know if you do it to them or, act on them, and that changes their like, oh, wow, this works.
That's 98% of what I do. I actually don't work with people that believe in what I do. It's not fun for me. Like it ends up being drawn into something else because they have other beliefs that are kind of like not aligned with what I believe in. So I tend to work only with
30 seconds.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I live in this sliver where I'm not kind of like part of like this like energy healing world. I'm also not part of like the science kind of like, I'm like in the middle trying to kind of like show the world that this is real and we can turn this into this.
And over at the Modernist, he has a bunch of thinkers there, analytical people that would all be skeptical. But they give him a chance because he's Albert, because he's amazing. But they're like,
well, also
okay,
it's kind of like
KDOW.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are continuing a energy-rich conversation with Albert Chen. And so, Albert, we were talking about this during the break. Like, how do you reconcile what you did in the tech world, which was very analytical and I think had data behind it, to what you're doing now that took you 20 plus years to kind of learn how to do, where it seems maybe subjective to some people, and there's not, a 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think in the last 5 years, I've been kind of like working on taking kind of like the ability of what I can do and converting it into something that is more kind of like scalable. And so I think ultimately, right, before I basically had a whole bunch of stories of like me, I healed this person, I healed that person. And those are great, but I'm turning that into data. And what I'm really doing right now is I'm basically taking all the case records of all the people that I've actually been able to help or heal. And I'm basically doing a longitudinal study on all of those cases. So we can kind of see what works, what doesn't work, how long things work for, how long things last for, what kind of went into it, kind of like to do it. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm actually kind of like standardizing a certification process to be able to kind of like develop someone to be able to have this ability. And so the ability for me to scale myself and replicate myself to, from one right now to about 10 people that can kind of do almost like completely what I can do for mostly limb pain. There's definitely some kind of like organ and like neurological stuff that I do that my students kind of don't do right now. But and then we're basically taking all of the people that we help, and we're actually going to just study all that data. And then long term, I'm trying to really understand kind of like the science of what's going on and reverse engineer this into some kind of therapeutic.
That's incredible. Do you have a story that really stands out where even you went into the situation thinking, there's no way I can do anything, but why not try?
Yeah, like I'm a skeptic. I actually tend to work only with skeptics, because it's I find that people that are like really believe in this stuff, they kind of like believe in it, and they like to me it's got to work regardless of whether you believe in it or not. And so I tend to work with skeptics. And my community at Modernist, and most of my friends are kind of like tech founders and people that are not really into this stuff. And you got to imagine, like, I got into this like 25 years ago. 25 years ago, meditation wasn't it really accepted. Yoga wasn't really accepted back then. This is like in the late 90s. And then so the world's kind of evolved definitely kind of like a bit where people are at least kind of open to this. But in my journey of kind of like trying to tell people about this and kind of like spread kind of like just the understanding of this, it's been definitely very challenging. And I think there's really no way to believe this until you experience it. There's a lot of people that kind of like do these kinds of things, but like the outcome of like the results is really, I think, the remarkable thing.
But it
So
all starts with you actually. Before every single patient that you help, you need to do this squat exercise for an hour, or
Oh,
is this just once a day and then you have the healing power all day long?
that's kind of how it works. Yeah. Basically, I train like every day, and then it builds up this kind of like pressure in my body of like energy, and then I can kind of like let that out. And then when I let that out, it acts as kind of like a therapeutic like healing.
But so is it like a pressure release valve and you deplete it to zero as the day goes on? Or do you?
Um, it is the funny thing is how I explain it sometimes to my students, it's kind of like peeing. Like you have to kind of like let go to kind of with your muscles to kind of like let it start going, and then you could put
Yep.
pressure behind it kind of like to get more of it out. Um there's some pressure that you kind of develop through this like squat that we do for training, and it kind of like makes this feeling stronger. The lower you squat, the longer you squat, the more often you squat, this feeling gets stronger and stronger and stronger in your hand. And then over time, you're able to control it. You're able to kind of like on demand, like not by doing the squat that day, but I can just release it, and then it will just kind of like open up, and I can project it into someone's body.
So what is the science behind it, or what do you think the science is behind it? And like that's part A of my question, because part B is, how is it that squatting, which we consider, using the leg muscles and maybe some core, is somehow affecting a hand.
I think it's affecting everything in your body. So as
Okay.
you hold the squat for let's say like an hour or 30 minutes, for however long you can hold it. Oh, by the way, first of all, the squat is like a very common thing in Asia that is part of a lot of practices. Like most martial arts practices have this thing called horse stance, which is kind of like a squat that kind of like builds power in your body. Um, and that's kind of the squat that we do. We modify it a bit, but that's like there's something in the squat that kind of like makes you stronger or makes you that does something to your body. And people in Asia have been doing this for thousands of years. The ability to somehow electrify the squat is kind of like that's the trick that is able to kind of like now turn this like squat into something that you can then turn into power. And my this training that I did to kind of develop this ability is all actually martial arts based. It's actually not like a real healing modality in that sense. And so the squat is kind of like basically all the training is literally just a squat. But I need to kind of give you a seed of this energy that kind of like now turns the squat into kind of this bioelectrical kind of like output. Um, so something's happening. I don't know exactly what's happening in the body that's kind of like converting that that squat into kind of like this energy. But the things that I have been doing is I've been trying to heal scientists to try to kind of get their kind of like perspective on like what they think this is. And it's really interesting, right? Because the thing I've learned is that science doesn't really understand how the body works. Like that's like the ultimate thing that I've kind of like found
A
that we
little
understand.
disappointing and a little
Yeah,
disconcerting
I think that
to
like,
hear.
I think when you're growing up, you feel like, oh, the doctor knows what they're doing, or like, scientists understand how everything works. If you get sick, they'll fix you. But now I'm kind of like, oh, like science understands maybe like 10% of how the body works, right? And I'm like, oh, that is like not, that's not what I thought was like the reality. Um,
And
but
coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we're going to maybe have Albert Chen demonstrate the squat. So if you're listening on radio, you might have to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the @ the way to my heart, to see the actual squat and how he is converting that into energy that might heal you. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation. Don't go away.
yeah,
We're,
but
that's so cool. We I don't know if you can kind of demonstrate a
I
little bit
set you up.
that.
yeah, a little bit, sure. I can
Just
find like
because
some
I want to
photos.
see just how I know you showed me before, and it's the hands that are out, in front of
Yeah.
you, right? You're doing that. And I think I remember doing that. You're going to laugh at me. And well, I'll
Are you going to do it too,
probably why
Kim?
I'm,
I guess we could
I'll,
all try.
yeah, we could try. I
Yeah,
Well,
do
I,
it when I'm brushing my teeth.
that's a question too. Like, can you train ev anybody?
almost anybody.
Okay.
Um, so basically, I can train anybody and they can do it for their own health, but whether they can actually get the energy out of their hand is harder. But I
Yeah,
still about 80% of people can do that. It's still there's like it's actually more of like a natural like a normal like distribution curve. Like maybe like 15% of people can't feel the energy and have a hard time kind of training because they have no feedback mechanism of like whether it's working or not. And then 15% are like super sensitive. Like they can feel like everything like moving in their body like really, really easily. And then most people are just in the middle. They can feel it, but they have to kind of like work at it to kind of like to be able to feel more of it. But
that
as
is
long as
so.
you're kind of in this like 80% of like, you can feel it a little bit, I can train you to be a healer.
But so do you have to have a chronic issue, so chronic physical medical condition to benefit from it? Or, I
No.
mean, so could you take somebody who's, feeling a little bit gray in that particular day or down in the dumps and give them some positive energy to help
Yeah.
them
In
feel
in
better?
in Chinese, that's called wu qi, which basically means kind of like add energy to your body. And ultimately, this is actually a longevity practice. This is like the original longevity practice, like started thousands of years ago in Asia, where people just did this, when you're talking about Tai Chi and other things like that, to kind of like improve their health, right? And I think what I'm researching too is kind of like what's going on in the healer's body or the person that trains to kind of like, increase their power, their like life.
Because I'm wondering if like a Dr. Phillips, for example, could use this as a practice in the morning before he goes into the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when he goes and he reaches out to patients to shake their hand, maybe it's a little bit more of an extended handshake with a clasp and just, how are you doing? And as part of that, he's transferring his healing energy into the patient.
You gotta come and try this. You just gotta feel it. Like hopefully you can feel it. But
Now, do you
yeah,
have to be like, do you and your students have to be physically connected? Like, can you do this teach people over Zoom?
I can teach people over Zoom, but it's easiest if you've been in person at least once.
Okay.
So you once you feel it once, it's really easy to replicate that. But the way you get really good really fast is kind of like you keep feeling it over and over again from someone else that can do it. And so now, like in my class, I can get this is how crazy it is. Although it took me like 17 years to figure this out, I can train a new healer in 90 days. But they have to kind of be here like for the 90 days, right? Like come to see me like twice a week, like we're in person, like training like twice a week. Otherwise, it just takes longer.
And are there other things you need to do, like eat a special diet or,
Nothing.
sleep with one eye? I don't know. I'm just
No, yeah, nothing. Yeah. And like,
sleep with one eye
I want to say this, but I don't want to say this kind of like live, but like, the things that we've healed are kind of like pretty remarkable. I've healed like torn rotator cuffs, like the guy Justin Kahn from founder of Twitch. I've healed my most complex healing was epilepsy from the founder of YouTube, Steve Chen. So he had epilepsy for 14 years. He had two brain surgeries, UCSF and Stanford, and then I ended up like
You got
helping.
30 seconds.
Yeah. I've worked with Tom Brady, I've worked with Giselle, I've worked with Justin Timberlake, I've worked with a bunch of movie producers, a lot of like tech founders, big
Yeah.
VCs and their families. Like that's like my ecosystem right now.
Which is amazing. And he has 3 branches. So we'll have to get into the 3 branches of his
Yeah.
business too, Dr. John. So after we do
Yeah.
the demo, then maybe we get into the
Albert, are you okay with showing the demo?
Yeah, no problem. You can download my app and kind of like just walk through it too.
1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Kids, the more we do this show, the more I realize, and Kim, I think you would agree, that this needs to be like at least an hour and a half or 2 hours long. Because during break, we're just Albert is giving me all these questions are coming to mind. So, but we only have 2 segments left. So, Albert, can you have an app that can kind of walk people through this? But you'll have to share that app with us. But more importantly, can you demonstrate for our YouTube channel how you do the squat?
Yeah. Sure. Let's see.
So he's kind of standing up and he's gonna, for those of you that are listening on the radio, again, youtube.com/the @ the way to my heart to see what he's doing. I don't know if you could walk us through this verbally.
I'll walk you through, but why don't you do it with me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically you stand up and the squat, let me see if I can get a better angle here. Okay. So basically the squat is like you're just kind of like you're leaning down and you're putting like basically pressure on your thighs.
Are you up against the wall?
No, you're not. I'm not like against the wall, but
Okay.
I'm out of space here. That's why. So,
Okay.
and then basically like I'm putting my hands out in front of my body, and I'm just kind of cupping my hands kind of like lightly. And then so I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna see if you can feel it over Zoom.
I felt the twitch. I swear to God.
Yes, that's
So I
exactly.
feel like a pull, like I'm being pulled forward.
Yes. Okay.
I felt like a little pulse.
Yeah. So that's what it feels like.
Yeah, my right hand is like twitching.
Yep. Okay. So you kind of like feel a tingling, kind of like pulse, like a thing.
This is really crazy. No one is going to believe us, but I swear to God. feel it in that right hand that you were helping before.
Yeah. And so I can kind of like even move it around between your hands.
And I can't tell if like you're telling me that, so I'm thinking it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Okay.
I've literally felt a twitch, like I got shocked.
That's exactly what it is. Okay. So basically, oh, actually, no.
I just
Let me
lost
do
my
this.
medical license, so thanks,
Okay.
Albert.
Okay. Actually, so you do this, and you just kind of like stand there, right? I'm gonna put the energy in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm. Thank.
Okay. It should be there. I'm gonna leave it in your hands right now.
Okay.
Okay. Still there, right? It's light, I'm sure. But now the longer you hold this squat with your thighs, by putting pressure on your thighs here to here, and pulling your diaphragm in and up, and squeezing your butt, that feeling in your hands will start growing and becoming stronger and stronger.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, this is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Okay.
Wow.
So
And now
that's
I can feel like what's interesting is I can feel like this, I don't know if I'm going to explain this properly, but like a huge, like the energy just kind of flowing right down now.
yeah. So I think what I can do is I can control the energy in your body like through Zoom, which is really weird. Like I can kind of like move things around. People can feel things like over Zoom. I like healing over Zoom, it actually works, but it doesn't work nearly as well as when I do it in person. And it's also harder for me. Like so the one thing that happens to me is that when I do this, I can feel what's going on in the person's body that I'm transferring energy into. And so that's kind of like my radar to kind of like know how to heal someone. Like when I put energy into your body, I can move it around by just moving my hand around, like left or right. The energy just goes left or right. And then I get a signal back in my body of what you feel in your body. So if you have shoulder pain, I'll get kind of like shoulder pain in my shoulder in the same place. And then that's how I know where the problem is. And then I can actually use the energy to kind of like reconnect something kind of like between almost all my healings actually start from the spine and then go out to like the limb because I find kind of like that's where the root like most problems are. So I can repair kind of like that pathway that kind of goes from the spine to the shoulder, the lower back to the sciatic nerve, like something kind of like internal in the body to an organ, like something like I've discovered is that acid reflux was like some damage between like the spine and kind of like the solar plexus. Like there's like I don't know, it's a pathway, peripheral nerve, something in there was like didn't feel correct when I kind of put energy in there. And then when I reconnected that with the energy, that's kind of how that resolved that issue. So
That's incredible. Coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation, we'll have final thoughts from Albert Chen on the 3 phases of his business that he hopes to expand globally. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
it's cool to experience it a little bit. I'm glad you're able to feel that.
Yeah, no, I actually was afraid I wasn't gonna feel it.
I'm a
Especially
skeptic.
in there because I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
you were going to. I was going to play it off as, oh, he's just targeting Dr. Phillips. You know, if I didn't feel it, I was just going to say, so Dr. Phillips, how do you feel?
Like literally when we first started it, I felt like a little shock in my hand,
Yeah.
my left hand.
A lot of that is what happening is that like it's almost like you know when electricity runs through a light bulb filament and like and the resistance from the light bulb filament kind of creates like the heat and light. So I feel like what's going on is I'm able to kind of project some kind of like electricity or something into your body, and then where you feel it typically is like where you have a little bit of damage, and kind of like those like snaps that you kind of feel, or like the is actually kind of like repairing something in your body, or like reconnecting something in your body. And so like some people like that are really healthy kind of like actually have a little bit harder time feeling. They can feel it, but it kind of like just moves through their body kind of like because there's no resistance kind of holding it back.
I see.
So
you worked with some obviously famous people, athletes and things like that. So they're because they're always you read about some of them looking for alternative means of healing
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Hyperbarics and cryo chambers and
No, they're
things.
all trying to get like that 1% edge, right? So like, and they've tried everything. When they're still injured, which like so many people are, it's interesting. Like definitely sports is a whole market for us. The one thing where it makes it very hard for me to heal someone is after they've had surgery.
Oh,
So they've had
interesting.
surgery, especially if they've kind of had like some metal kind of implanted in their body, like the energy will push up and try to like break through that, and then it'll create pressure and actually it'll create discomfort.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anything artificial in the body like is kind of like bad. Like I was trying to heal someone that had tinnitus and like and this is I'm learning too. I'm trying to figure out what we were able to affect and what we're not able to affect. And I wasn't able to affect it. It kind of actually made it worse too. And it was like kind of like, in the same way that you have kind of like cases that don't work and they're very, hard. To me, it's kind of like if you've had so many successes, then you have something that doesn't work, you're kind of like, oh, that's why didn't it work, right? Like and then it turns out that person, like years later, told me like she had an IUD when she had that removed, then the tinnitus went away. So there's definitely things that are kind of like fillings in your mouth, like in your teeth. It kind of like causes like other issues. So yeah, it's like I try to not work with people that have had surgery because I don't know how the surgery will change how the healing will work. So.
So when you're doing the squat, can you ultimately like, I have that hand and I do my shoulder. So, which is funny because my shoulder's now feeling a little better, which is very
I feel
strange.
better. Yeah.
And I felt the pulsating in that right hand still. So I'm wondering, so can I ultimately heal
Got about
myself
30 seconds.
for this practice?
That's how it works. Basically, the healing when you hold that squat is micro healing yourself. And so basically you're doing two things. You're micro healing yourself and you're building energy. But there will be things that are hard for you to break through. Like and I say that like let's say for you to fully heal your shoulder, you might need to hold that squat like really low for like 4 hours a day. But it's much easier for someone else to kind of heal you.
We have the three branches.
1220 KDOW.
So you want to do it?
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
We only have about 4 minutes left. Albert, you have three branches to the business or the philosophy, right? What are they? And how do we learn more about them via, your website or your app that you have?
Yeah, so my main business is called Bios Vitalium, and Bio stands for Bioelectric Interhuman Operating System, and Vitalium is actually how I'm kind of coining the energy and kind of like what we're doing. So Bios Vitalium is actually a healer co-op. Like it's actually owned by my team of healers that I've kind of trained, and we're gonna kind of like go to the world and try to heal as many people as we can to kind of impact kind of like the world. So we want to grow this healer co-op and get more people to kind of like create more healing capacity. And the way we're gonna offer it is that people can buy these healing credits called Vitalium, and they'll be able to offer them to get a healing. So you basically request kind of like healings in our marketplace with these healing credits, and then we'll have healers kind of like pick up and schedule like different people's healings. But the cool thing of how it's going to work is that you pledge the amount of credits that you want to offer the healer, and then you only transfer them based on success of the healing. So if it doesn't work, you don't kind of transfer the credits. You can kind of sell them again back in the marketplace of the credits. But the way the credits do work is that they go to the healer. Because the one thing that happens when the healer heals you is that they lose energy, and then a lot of times they actually take on the pain where they need to be healed themselves. So the credits allow them to go to another healer to get healing and to get energy back to kind of heal themselves. So that's kind of like the point of the credits. We're also asking people to donate to our nonprofit. It's called BioSingularity Institute, and we're studying through the nonprofit all of these healings. We're basically getting the case records. We're going to do a longitudinal study on what works, how long it works for, like what it works for, who is a good kind of healer. And we're trying to really kind of like figure out in a clinical environment, like what's going on in the body of the receiver and the body of the healer. And then the last thing I'm doing is a company called BioDavinci, where I'm the chairman, where I've kind of like merged with a scientific team to kind of reverse engineer this bioelectric effect of the body, the therapeutic effect of the body through a pill. So our goal there is to actually understand kind of like through the science of how bioelectricity works in the body. So there's a lot of research that has been done in the last like 10 years in this field of bioelectricity and around an area called ion channels. And so we're doing basically ion channel drug development, drug discovery, using AI to kind of like try to really map the entire kind of like electrical system in the body, what's biological system in the body, and then figure out kind of what we can do to affect the body for different diseases and different issues.
So where can people go to find out about this and to download also your app to participate?
You can go to biosvitalium.com. It's BIOS Vitalium, Vitalium.com. And that is it's kind of like my main site. We're not fully launched with our healing kind of like portal yet, but you can sign up to kind of like request an invite to it when we go into private beta pretty soon. And the app is it's currently App Store only, but in the next week it'll be App Store and Google Play Store. So
What's it called?
Bios Vitalium.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Look it up
Albert
right
Chen,
now.
really appreciate you. I know exactly. This is incredible. We really appreciate you being with us and sharing your energy with us and our entire audience. And we wish you the greatest of success. And hopefully you'll come back in a few months and share with us even greater success and more healings along your journey. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Journalist Kim McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips. Our mission is.
So I am thinking we need a part 2.
Yes, we do.
So
we need a session.
You guys should do a live one here. You should do a live one where I just heal one of you, or heal somebody, and you can kind of like you can just kind of like broadcast that and like do a live podcast like afterwards with whoever we heal to kind of like see their perspective on it.
That would be
it would be Dr. John, I know your wife wants a trip up to Napa Valley.
We do need, yes, like with plenty of time and scheduling. Yes, this is definitely. But what if you don't heal me? And then you like that.
That is I mean, it definitely doesn't work all the time. There's definitely things kind of like if you have like too much physical compression, that I need to somehow kind of like stretch like your back out or something like that. Like so like but it works kind of like 80% of the time. So like it's like pretty, like I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to at least kind of affect it. And whether I completely heal it, that's gonna be like that's the number, whether I completely heal it is if it works to some degree, then it's just a matter of like how much energy I need to put in there. And it could be that you need more energy, more sessions, like but if it doesn't work at all, then if it doesn't work at all, usually I'm in the wrong pathway. Like or there's too much physical compression around something that I can't like move through, and something's blocked, like physically blocking it, but it's more rare now that we can't affect someone. It's like we're like, that's why we're doing the studies, right? Because like when we can show that the efficacy is kind of like like 80%, then and we can change the pain score, and then we can like look at the longitudinal data, like that's going to be really the thing that's like change
something
people's
objective to it.
perceptions, right? So
Sweet. That's awesome.
So it's interesting. I would love to see, because now, since you did the hand and you actually helped to get mobility back in my hand, which was amazing. I went to a place called biocelllife.com over in Las Vegas. Would love to introduce it to you, guys, because there could be some great synergies in electricity. There, they have a machine that is FDA cleared. It's technology that's FDA cleared, kind of like the TENS unit, where, but in it, where they send electricity into the body, the frequencies into the body for healing, targeting that inflammation.
Right.
But they can their device actually reads the body's frequencies.
Got it. Okay.
And then the machine automatically generates the right frequency that you're missing in certain areas. So there
Got it.
might be just something interesting or synergistic there. I don't know, would be interesting to find out. But needless to say, when I went there just to try it for a show we were doing, we discovered that it wasn't necessarily just the hand, that it was stemming from the shoulder. So ever since then, I've had chronic pain in my shoulder because it triggered where I think it was really coming from. And then that was coming from my neck.
You're
And
injured
so,
absolutely from your neck. Absolutely. So, you know what I found is like almost all chronic kind of like limb pain stems from the spine.
yeah,
And basically whichever vertebrae you damage and you damage the disc and it kind of like impacts kind of like the peripheral nerve, wherever that nerve goes. If you kind of look at any kind of chiropractic map and you can kind of like see all the peripheral nerves that fall off of like each kind of vertebrae in the spine, that is my map. That's literally the secret of like how I do my healing, right? I look at kind of like where like you tell me that generally you have like kind of pain here, right? I go back and I just literally look at kind of like where the peripheral nerves go back to your neck. I just put energy there and then down that pathway. That's all I do.
see, I have a feeling that is because ever since then, I now notice heavily the neck pain and chronically the shoulder pain. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I should have stayed there for a few more days once that discovery was made, because as you know, sometimes it's not just one session. Sometimes that first session is a little bit of discovery.
Yeah, I
And
think you probably like fix your whole thing like in maybe like 2 sessions.
yeah, I think that you definitely could do it. That would be incredible, but we'd want to film that because
I film
I'm all
everything, and you should film it and broadcast it here. But I literally, we literally have probably like I have like 10 terabytes of video of like us filming all of our training, all of our kind of like all of the sessions. I mean, the other thing that I don't think like you've experienced that like this thing has physical force. Like the way the training works is it starts off as like I just transfer energy, kind of like what I was doing to you guys, like here. The next thing is I train people how to kind of like move people without touching them, like
wow.
out of Star Wars, right? And so if you look at like the app and the videos, you can see kind of like how everything is kind of like laid out. But like, yeah, I basically like train like, you know, it's like the force. I just, your energy's got to be strong enough to be able to move somebody without touching them before you can actually use it to kind of like move it inside someone's body to heal them.
Did you know there's this little wand you can get on Amazon? I forget what it's called. It's like an energy wand. And when they were first teaching me about at BioCell Life what they were doing and how electricity moves through the body and how it can be transferred, they used that little wand. And when you had your hands, like we stood in a circle, and if there was one person detached, the wand wouldn't work. But as soon as everyone was holding hands, including the wand would just start flashing.
Hmm.
And that was how it was showing that the electricity was traveling all the way through us because it needed the electricity not only on this side, but it needed connected on the other side as well, which I thought was really interesting. And just in that one little demonstration, it taught me so much about the possibilities of this type of approach.
Yeah, you know, it's funny now that we're kind of like getting deeper in the science side. Like what we're learning is like in the body at the cellular level, there's kind of like these ion channels that basically kind of like that are bioelectric, right? So like basically based on the voltage of like those ion channels, the cells kind of behave correctly or don't behave correctly. And so the drugging of the research we're trying to do is that nobody's ever kind of like figured out how to kind of like drug ion channels to kind of repair things at that level and to kind of like use voltage as kind of like the therapy. So we're basically like developing kind of like drugs to be able to target the ion channels, which is a very specific kind of drug. It's called a trip drug, and then use that to basically modulate the ion channels to reconnect, kind of like to repair kind of like the cell to kind of have it act correctly. And so when these ion channels get out of place, like in the gut, what happens is that the tight junctions between the cells actually get loose, and then you get basically like a loose barrier in the gut. And then you have things in the gut that leak into the bloodstream, and then that causes all these problems in the body. So, like the reason we're currently starting with the gut is because the gut has like all these biomarkers that we can kind of like track, and we can kind of see if it's working or not. Nerves are harder to kind of like, you know, like to work with. And also like the CEO of that company is like one of the top people in the world on gut knowledge. So
And that's where I think it would be
Hey,
great
Kim,
to have.
sorry to interrupt, guys. I gotta run.